All right, we'll go ahead and call the April Planning and Zone meeting to order. First item will be to approve the March minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they're approved.
All right, next item will be the staff report. What do you got, Jack?
I've got a microphone that won't, there. Is it working? Yep. Sorry. The starting north and working south to give folks an update if you don't drive around town. The Clay Creek Meadows is under construction for phase one, which is the sewer lines and water lines for the single family homes along Lake Meadows Drive. They have been grading for phase two to get the grades and elevations ready. I think we've went through the first round of comments, and we're waiting for the reply to the second round of comments on their construction plans through our engineers and their engineers to get those wrapped up. As soon as those are wrapped up, they'll be able to start that work as well. Moving further south. The bridge project is done, obviously. That makes a lot of folks happy. Across the street, we have construction started for the multifamily, the apartments and retail space at 110 Smithville, across the street here. They've got the first foundation in. They're setting up to start digging the second foundation later this week for the L-shaped part of the building on the backside. It'll be similar to the first, a little bit more concrete. They had 30 concrete trucks come last Thursday for that foundation they poured. They'll have about 45 for the next. So there will be a coordination, just so you all know. We're going to try and coordinate with Jack over at Hickson Klein to make sure he doesn't have a service going on the day that they're coming, so that we don't have funeral traffic and concrete truck traffic. Kind of unrelated to development, but it's part of the improvements through the city. The commercial street sidewalk project supposed to start in June, right after school gets out, and it'll go from the south side of the school property on Commercial all the way to downtown. That should, like I said, that's supposed to start in June. Several potential development conversations have occurred. Nothing significant enough to even identify a location at this point. Other than for us, it's somewhat lucky that it's not on the North Forest Main. So we've got a lot more capacity issues everywhere else. And then as you move further south of McDonald's, you have the Nottoway Valley Bank construction's going on that corner. That's what that is. The townhomes are going in just a little bit further south of there. Skip back up to the north at Richardson Street Plaza. The first building is going in the backside. You all approved that site plan last year. I don't remember when. And you should be able to anticipate another site plan for another building in that development on the what we've been calling the north lot. You got the west lot, the east lot faces 169, and the north lot's on the north side of the post office. So there should be a site plan review for that coming in the next couple of months. And waiting on scheduling a meeting for what used to be KCI RV. Their RV storage, they have building permits that have been pended. They've asked to wait on them so they could go through some kind of a feasibility thing on how many they were going to do. They've indicated they're ready to build all three and wanted to know what's the next step. From that perspective, we've given them our schedule, and they're going to get back with me with these are the days, and they want to go over everything they'll have to do so they can move forward with that. That'll be 3 buildings. on that, one on that backs up to the 169 side, way up on the hill. You can see the buildings that are up there. And it's buildings 1, 2, and 3 in the last site plan you all approved. So that should be starting soon. And we have the plans for phase 2 of Fairview Crossing, which would be some of the apartments. We haven't seen specifics, but we do know the cap based upon sewer capacity through the Hills of Shannon sewers. We know what that is. That was calculated a couple of years ago by our engineers to make sure we never had any problems. And they're going to be proposing to do those simultaneously with the west bypass and the new pump station down on 144th that should be starting pretty soon. The board just awarded that contract. That one's a 12-month plus construction timeline for that pump station in the west bypass, but that west bypass runs right through the middle of this property under the power lines, the Fairview Crossing power lines. And I think that's it. I did mention to some of you, and maybe even at the last meeting, that I would be putting on the agenda for April a request to pull the approval for the preliminary plat at Lakeside Crossing. Got a little distracted with several things going on and did not get that paperwork to you. So we still have until July to do it. I'll have it on the next agenda. And that's simply, as I think you're aware, is to pull the approval because they're going to delay it for at least 2 years. And we've got other issues going on with timeliness of construction projects that have to happen. And so we'll pull it and make them resubmit 2 years down the road whenever they come back. And if we change standards, they'll have to meet those standards then as well. And I have to ask Brandy, because she and I discussed this afternoon, and now I don't remember what it was. Lot 16, 15. 13 months ago, you all approved a site plan for a building at the very north end of the industrial park. It was a spec building type scenario. That was 13 months ago. He contacted Brandy today about starting construction, what he had to do. Site plan approval is valid for 1 year unless extended by the commission. Ultimately, I'll leave that up to you. If you want to hear it again, I can tell you he will make no changes to the application. He's wanting to start construction, and we haven't changed any of the ordinances. So we can certainly bring it back, but if you are not anticipating any issues with having the same thing you've already approved come back before you identically, then we will go ahead and release the permit. They were 28 days behind that 1 year deal.
We have different members on the board, so I think it would be good to maybe just review it
Okay.
personally.
Is that kind of a general consensus?
I mean, I say let's just let them do it, but I mean, do we want to, we can have it.
If I get a consensus one way or the other, I don't, and if anybody feels strongly one way or the other as well,
All right,
that's why I'm asking you.
raise hands if we want to have them resubmit.
Got one for sure.
Okay, and if you want them to just go ahead and get started.
And and so I'll go ahead and allow them to start. To that question, I will submit out what you all approved, so you all can take a look at it as well. Especially to Terry, who's out. He's an election judge, so he's out today. And you too, John.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all. If you have questions, dadgummit, sorry. If you have questions,
I have a question.
Sure.
On Clay Creek Meadows, that grading in phase 2, is phase 2 dependent on down the road whenever it has all the sewer capacity? Is everything included in phase 1 for the current capacity, or will some of phase 2 be in the current capacity?
Yes, phase 2 and phase one combined are going to be a total of 159 units. So they are within the capacity.
Okay.
Phase three, which is the northernmost end, up by W, that stuff will not be able to go in until
Okay.
that capacity issue is resolved at Wildflower.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions for Jack? All right, thank you, Jack. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the site plan review for 303 West Meadow Street. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I do have a comment card.
Okay, Jack, do you want
Yeah, I'll
to
go.
go first? Just,
Yes, in your packet, you got a couple of photographs in the staff report and discussion, and then a separate document that included the site plan showing the location. This is the site right down the corner here that's partially developed with a parking lot and an access driveway in it already. They're proposing to build a 60 by 40 building on it. It's a car lot, so they want a building to be able to have cars go in it as well. Michael asked for detailing, et cetera. But it will set at be the southeast corner of that parking lot, just off of it. And in the additional documents you have are the material looks of what the building's going to look like. The metal siding, we had discussed with them the board's prior approval of the stucco look. They preferred to submit a board and batten look. It is not wood. It just appears to be wood. And it's a metal siding, similar to the other metal sidings we've approved. It's got faux stone along the bottom. And it would be similar to the stuff over on the corner of Mill and Main right here. And I'm going blank on the name of the finance company there, but they've got the same type of stone on the bottom. It's all in grays. The emerald green arborvitae would go along this side. So if you're looking west down Meadow, it'd be that side of the building that is adjacent to an additional B3 lot and some R2 land that's next to that. And then the small boxwoods would be around the fence. So all of the submittal numbers that they've provided meet the minimum standards. The first page of the packet has a picture that shows that overhead roof over the entrances. And that's the part to get the bump out, the articulation of the sides. And then the roof and eaves and where the gutters are going to go up on the top edges. They are in a different color, a darker color gray, so that you get the clear bottom, middle, and top of the wall per the code requirements. I think that's it. I do know that the applicant's here, and I think Brandy said that somebody has signed up. That's all I have.
so is this gonna be a place where they're gonna sell cars from, or? Public comment first. Yeah, let's see public comment.
Glenn Owen.
Glenn Owen. All right, please state your name, address, and we'll have 3 minutes, please.
Street, which butts up to Dundee. About a year ago, I come up here and asked for the streets to be purged and cut down. And nothing's changed up there. It's still half of it has got no curves. There's guttering on the driveways. all that stuff. You know, I just kind of. You know, we need to get some curbs. And new blacktop up there. On that deal. Has anybody been driving up Dundee? Anybody been out there?
Not recently, no.
About every week. But also that doesn't have anything to do with this agenda item.
Correct.
So
Yeah, so what I would recommend is maybe come to the Alderman meeting and leave that comment, because that's where those folks, that's where the discussion could be had for something like that. We don't necessarily handle that at this particular function.
Yeah, existing. I would suggest that you come to City Hall during the business hours if you could and ask to speak with the Public Works Director, Chuck Souls.
because we have part of Dundee on
I don't know what,
stormwater budget, I think, this year. So,
I don't know what all's out there.
yeah, I was
But-
trying to
but-
check the budget, but yeah, it's not something we can discuss because it's not on the agenda for planning and zoning for this development.
But the Public Works Director is the one that's going to be putting any of that project stuff together. They've got a road quality index that they go through and bring it to the board every year. So to get that more reviewed, you'd need to speak directly with him. Chuck Souls is his name.
Yes,
Do you have his card over there, Brandy?
I'll go get it
Yeah.
real quick.
She can get you his card. I'm trying to pull up the budget too, just to see if it's on there.
Oh, sorry, Brandy.
Yeah,
I didn't
we'll
think it
make
was gonna be
sure,
like
we'll
that.
make sure you get some information tonight, and then what you can do to follow up. All right,
Yeah,
thank
your
you.
best bet is to start with Chuck. Brandy, why don't you listen?
All right, Brandy, was there any other
No,
public comment?
not for
We can
this
hold till
agenda
Jack gets
item.
back.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a brief pause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you have any questions, as you were going to ask earlier, I
Yeah,
will say
just-
the applicant and his builder are here. They can answer those questions. I really can't.
You guys come up, one of you.
Yeah. Safe, I think they're asking questions of you. Yeah, you. They're going to want to, yeah.
So what's gonna occur? Like, are you gonna sell cars out of this building, or just kind of like a shop? Okay,
So, my name's Safe.
safe.
So we have rented right now, just right next to Casey's, easy car sales. So we sell cars, we buy them from the auction and we sell them. So that's what we.
Okay, and so this is a second location here in town, or,
No, it's gonna be. Right now we rented.
oh, you're renting? Okay, I get it now. Okay. Right. So you want to have any questions of the applicant?
Sir, are you gonna do any reconditioning of the vehicles that you purchase at auction, or
We're gonna detail.
small stuff? Okay, thank you.
Safe, if to maybe clarify, are you going to do the same things you do at your current location, just here? Okay,
Yeah.
so everything's the same.
Yeah.
That's what I,
So my concern on this, Jack, is that it's metal. I mean, we've seen the other, that street's in gateway to
sure.
our historic district, and
I-
the metal we do have on 169, even the metal on this building has faded. It gets dented, it gets rusty,
I'm going basically off of what the code says and what this board, this commission has previously approved. Like I said,
Yeah.
the stucco look metal has been
Yeah.
regularly approved.
Like we did at Senior Center, right?
Yeah, well, that's actually, so that's real stucco at the
Okay.
senior. Well, it's not even real stucco. I take that back, but.
There's some foam in there. yeah.
But it's got insulation and yeah, but it's not a
Okay.
true stucco. But we have that stucco look on several buildings
Right.
throughout town, in the B3 district. So that, the coloration, I think
Yeah, so
The-
since the builder's here, is this
Yeah.
just colored metal or is this actually something on top of the metal like they're doing at Fairview or at Richardson? Because that's metal and then they're putting, they're insulating right now and then it'll have.
oh, yeah, yeah. Well, in that one, they have some metal and some not in that one. This one has, it appears to me, from what I can see, it has multicolors in the paint.
Right.
It doesn't look like it's a solid color, but these gentlemen can probably,
Yeah.
they've actually seen it before I haven't. But my guess is it's going to be the same type of coating that you see on any of the metal type sidings, be it the stucco look or the board and batten look.
You guys
This
have-
just isn't that corrugated metal look.
Gotcha.
that-
Do you
that
guys
is-
have samples or anything? Because I know some of the other builders have brought that in so we can see what it looks like. Can you use the mic so people can hear you online?
Here, I'll fix that.
It's on the bottom right.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah. So the steel panels we use are do have like a 40-year paint warranty on them. And I have two different samples I can bring in. One is just like a flat color. And then we have what we call a texture, which kind of gives that little bit of a 3D dimension as such. Typically you can't see it if you're from, let's say, over 50 feet away. That's kind of a personal preference, but just one of the things that we do offer, especially with the board and batten look. It's relatively new, but it's got some great testing behind it. So yeah, I'll be glad to bring several of those colors in and let you guys look at it.
Yeah, let me ask you, when would you be able to bring them in? Do we need to bump this for a month, or do you have them in
I
the
got them
vehicle?
with me.
Yeah, if you'll go do that, and that'll make things a lot quicker.
Yeah, sure
Yeah.
thing. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or,
I mean, that's my concern really is I kind of want to really see what this is going to look like.
okay, sure.
Because I mean, I think we got a little bit of some sample pictures, but if this isn't what it's going to look like, then I don't know.
Yeah, because across the street is stucco and everything beside it is more historic homes.
Yeah, and it is right there at that historic area, and I just not sure, not sure if this way it's presented today would work with that.
It looks like a garage. Nothing wrong with it being a garage, just
Correct.
not right there. How old's your building?
50 something. 56, or 60, I mean, 66.
Okay. And that's when that commercial was commercial.
Yeah.
Because Ameren's across the street and
They had the gas station. across
Yeah.
the street.
Well, and Meadow was the one that went across.
yeah. So
They
it's,
moved it to Main Street later when they redid the bridge
yeah.
on Second Creek.
Any other questions while we're waiting on samples? I know Rob loves his samples.
So how far does the historic district go?
The mill, to the street right before that, right?
Well, the historic district or the B4?
The B4.
The B4 is across the street. It's the north side of Meadow to the river and from 169
Because
to Smith
so
Street.
Edward Jones and the chiropractor are in B4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything south of that that's kind of the older Victorians up the hill. So
Yeah, south of that, yeah.
yeah,
These are this is the front lot of the two lots
I
that run
get
along-
that, but
along
there's also
169,
an empty
so-
lot behind it that.
Yeah, That's the same thing.
Isn't the old AT&T building or Southwestern building?
Mm,
That's about 350 feet away to the north and, south and east.
yeah, towards where like the HVAC place is at.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, that's the old AT&T building that is now, I forget the name of the HVAC company.
Wilson.
Wilson Mechanical, yeah.
I got a link. I don't know if that's gonna help or something.
My guess is that the internet version of it won't be, you know, if you're looking at it on a screen, it won't be as. Oh. Where did these start?
Rob,
They did start there? Okay. Then I don't need to view
did you pocket one? Keep one.
them.
Two? Okay. Oh,
Yeah. So of these, which one are you, so that they're clear, which one are you guys proposing will be the coloration? It looked as a much lighter version in the, I don't know what the color
So-
is.
This would be the siding,
Okay,
this one, and then black.
okay. Because some of them are textured, some of them are not.
Correct, these would be the textured ones.
Okay, and are they going to be on here?
That's up to preference. I mean, they can be.
And can this color that you've selected be?
That one?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
and these are actual oil stock off the same.
yeah, they just cut it out.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
For any, so that it would be the rough version of this color as the main body, and then faux stone below, vinyl faux stone, and the regular gutters up top. If you have any other questions of me or the applicant, if not,
So in the photos, it looks like a fake wood type of look to it. The samples that were just passed around, they are textual, but they're definitely, to me, it's one solid color. So is there am I missing something between this wood look and the samples that were passed around?
We do have wood grain. Color. We do have the actual wood grain, design. It's like a painted design available. And I mean, it's pretty legit with the board and batten. I mean, from 50 feet away, you guarantee it's wood. It's pretty outstanding. And that comes in varied colors from, similar to kind of have the tint of the ash gray, the lighter gray, kind of a weathered wood to, very similar to that picture. I mean, very similar. And also have darker, there's a couple variants, like more like a cedar plank, like a lighter.
But you don't have samples of those with you, correct?
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I don't think I do. I might be able to find some photos on my phone, but
I'd rather see a true sample of
Uh-huh.
what is shown in this picture here.
make a motion.
Those
that
are the-
we
yeah,
postpone
those are-
This item until later meeting.
I'll make a motion to postpone this item until you can provide us with
Are
a
you just seconding
physical
them?
look.
Are you seconding?
Oh, I'm seconding myself?
I just said I motion, I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion.
I'll second you then.
there we go.
I thought you were looking me to make the motion.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, let's,
We gotta take care of.
do we need what, are we postponing? That's what we're doing, postponing?
Postpone.
Postpone.
Means
Until the next meeting.
Yeah.
To a date certain as a postpone.
Yeah.
Table means you just.
whenever, yeah.
Yeah, What,
Postpone
what
next meeting.
what I would like to see is maybe just more detail fleshed out in what we're being given here of what this is gonna look like and samples and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But so those are not approved at all?
No, they want to see the other multicolored.
The picture presented.
Yeah.
Shows
The wood grain.
wood grain.
Mhm.
Those are solid colors. If you have something like this, that's what we'd like to see.
Let me go check my samples, and see if I have I don't have it in this large square, but I might have it in a little smaller, but let me check and see. If you can give me like 2-3 minutes, if I got them.
Well, we've got, just so you know, we've got other applicants on things sitting, waiting for this one to get done. And they haven't voted yet, but they've made a motion to bump this to May. And it's been seconded. So the only thing they have left to do is to vote to bump it to May. And their
I'll call the
request is
question.
that you bring the big stuff.
Call the question. I'll call the vote.
Okay. Billy?
Aye.
John Chevalier?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
John Wallace?
Aye.
Mayor Boley?
Aye.
6-0.
And to you, the builder, I would like to see a bigger sample. I don't want to see a little 2-inch sample. I want to see a big piece of it to really get a view of what it would really look like.
Yeah, typically they bring in like a 2x2 or something.
Yep.
Yeah, good
Some of
size.
them bring them in with a full storyboard or whatever
Yeah.
they call them.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to SAFE tomorrow about what specifically I think will address their questions, and then we'll put it back on. We'll update the submittal to you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next item will be the public hearing for a conditional use permit at 14820 North Industrial Drive. This time we'll go ahead and open that public hearing. Jack, would you like to present evidence?
Yes, in the packet, I provided you with a staff report document that describes the CUP required findings. So you know what you're looking for, what you have to do. Provided you with a staff report that addresses the issues associated with it, with some recommended conditions that are in the staff report as well. There are also proposed findings of fact and conclusions that would be handled in the next thing following this hearing. And then I've also included the applicant's statement of justification for the request. So all of those things would be the city's evidence to put in so that you have that to at least start your evaluation. Go ahead, Brandy.
Okay. David Finke and Kim Finke?
Thank you all for having us again. Appreciate it. I'm David. This is my wife, Kimberly. We wanted to come
Please state
back.
your address as well, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. 9350 Highway E, Camden Point, Missouri. Our property is 14820 Industrial Drive here in Smithville. First things first, the picture on here of a red gate truck, I want to address that. It says a non-C&D truck. There's no such thing as a non-C&D truck. That is a front load truck. They can pick up MSW, but mainly what this truck does is services the businesses in town with the flip top dumpsters. But also it picks up, and some of the larger companies are designated as commingled recycling, and some of them might just be straight wood, some of them straight cardboard. So it picks those up as well. I just don't want to, from this, to give the impression that we're accepting MSW, because we are not. And we have some pictures to hand out as well. Redgate those are the only ones we allow recycling to be brought into our facility. They have between 2 and I think the most they've ever brought in is 10 trucks in a day, but they do the recycling for Kearney, Savannah, Plattsburgh, and other municipalities as well. But the pictures show it's paper, cardboard, and those are things that are not regulated waste. They're not part of the MSW. Even if we wanted to take MSW right now illegally, because we are not permitted by the state, we would have nowhere to take it, because we have an exclusive contract with Waste Management, Johnson County Landfill. They would not let us bring it without our permit from the state. So just so it's clear, we have a 70-foot wide by 30-foot door on the front of the building that faces the street, and it's open. every day. So if there's ever a concern, just give us a call or just drive in. Usually, there's 3 or 4 city trucks out there every day because of the street and doing some other stuff. So they want to pop in, come on in. It's an open house. As long as we're not impeding traffic or something, we don't care. So going on from that, the other thing we wanted to convey is we came before you last time to get the C&D, and that's what our intentions were. We had no intention of going for MSW at that time because we've actually had to retrofit a few things on our building to even progress now. But what has changed that for us, you see in our statement, if you've seen the volatility that's happening with the St. Joe landfill, it's really affected our business and everyone that is around, Clay County, Clinton, Buchanan as well, that service everyone in here. Redgate, for instance, on their front load, they service over 80% of the businesses in Smithville with the flip top dumpsters. They've had to have a pretty considerable rate increase because the cells were not managed at that landfill. So they're going to end up shutting us out from dumping there. They haven't come out and said it yet, but when we get to January, it's gone from $32 a ton. We expect they've moved it to 40. That price had been consistent for 15 years. So they've moved it to 40 and the committee is recommending they go between $65 and $75 a ton by January 1. But what's also going to happen at that time is they really want to limit people from outside of Buchanan County or St. Joe from dumping there. So it really limit, like if I set a dumpster at your house and you put a couch in it and you put, home goods and that appliances, we can't take that unless we have an MSW permit. So if it's not construction and demo or recycle, we dump those at St. Joe, and that option is going to be taken away from us. We set about 60 to 70 new dumpsters a week, and we dump that many as well just with our company, and that doesn't include Redgate is probably even more than that with what they service. So it's the pricing is going to be a real issue for here, mainly for businesses, but also for people in the city and outside. So that's kind of what we're looking at. When I first addressed Jack with this, some of his concerns, everyone's concern is smell and trash. So what we took Bill Mann, we wanted to get his blessing as well because we had told him that we wanted to do C&D from the beginning, or he wouldn't have sold me the lot. So we talked with him, and he was really concerned and had some sensitivity to the odor issue, obviously with the marijuana facility right beside us. He doesn't want to go down that road again. So we took a field trip to the busiest one in the city, which actually has residential properties around it. It does 1,500 to 1,700 ton of trash a day. And we took Bill there. We also took 2 of our aldermen from our district just so they could see how it operates. If there's any smell, everyone was pleasantly surprised. There's no odor. And the reason being is when that hits the floor, we're a transfer station. We cannot house it. So we don't make money unless we get it into the semi-trailer. So,
Right, well, sorry, we have 23 minutes per person.
Okay.
You're a little over that, so I appreciate it.
Okay.
We're teaming
And it's been like at least 6+ minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
So,
can I give you just we want to be a good partner with the city. We're doing things right now. Public Works, this has allowed us to do a lot of things. We'll be able to take some bulky items. We'll be able to take, 2 or 3 times a year, different things that we can discount for people in Smithville. But like for Public Works, we're providing a free 40-yard dumpster right now. We also have a dumpster at the street department that we got for them as well. So these are having this facility allows us to do more of those things. We want to partner with you guys, but we want to do it the right way. We spent an extra $30,000 on slats for the fence because Jack said we probably should have done a solid fence or at least block the view. So we're going ahead and doing those things anyway, just so everyone feels better about it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and if we have questions on the next
Okay.
item, we'll probably ask you. Bring it back
Okay.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right, do we have any other comments?
Yep, Doug Cercioni.
Good evening. I'm Doug Cercioni, 728 Spellman Drive. In reviewing the staff report for this, a couple items that caught my attention and raised a few concerns and raised a couple questions. As it stands with where this is located, that's the traffic coming in and out Park Drive to 169. As we all are well aware, that's one of our critical points that we routinely have accidents with between traffic coming out of Park Drive and coming out of the Quick Trip. With this expanding, with more trucks coming in and out, you're going to have larger and slower moving trucks having to do cross traffic in and out of there. I'm concerned that this is going to substantiate more accidents in that location. I know it was mentioned earlier that the former KCIRV is proceeding with their expansion. That poses the question, does that push up 148th West being done for the north entrance of that, which then would tie into this, allowing the trucks to come in and out at the stoplight at Commercial and 169. The other thing I saw that concerned me a little bit, initially was reading, I was concerned about runoff into the watershed behind the building and the property, but I noticed that it said it's all going down through the floor drains into the sewer system. But with what additionally may be brought in there, is that going to create issues with our wastewater plant and causing costs there to increase because of additional chemicals that are going to be needed to treat whatever else may be washed down through there. And a couple of questions that came to mind was, I know in the past we've had some issues with EPA DNR permits with various projects. With something like conditional use permit, are the permits required to be in place before that is issued or before a occupancy license is issued? And the other thing that I was questioning is, with the conditional use permits, are they tied solely to the property or are they tied solely to the business and the property? Where if a business changes ownership, does it then have to be reissued for the new owner? That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Kit Starr.
I'm Kit Starr. I live at 2650 West 223rd Street in Bucyrus, Kansas. You might wonder how I ended up in Smithville tonight. But I'm one of the owners of Raptor Recycle and Transfer, which is the Kansas City's newest transfer station prior to this one opening up. We're down in Grandview. A couple of things that the previous speaker just brought up that I thought I might address. I mean, we do border residential at our transfer facility. They're 400 feet from our building, our houses. We've been open now 2.5 years and to date have not had a single complaint to the city for any reason by anybody. And the mayor, city manager, and everybody there feel good that we're providing solutions to the area, and they feel good about it because they're seeing what's going on in the landfill space. And 9 out of the last 10 landfills that tried to go in Missouri got denied. And so it's just transfer stations are going to become more and more the required method to get the waste away from people. I do want to touch on MoDNR's role, because this is when you go to MSW, it is a very highly regulated deal. And so MoDNR ensures that you have a very comprehensive plan. They come out and inspect and test. They test the water, the stormwater runoff in your basins, and it is an incredibly regulated thing. And so MoDNR really monitors your impact on the environment closely. And that was a concern in city of Grandview, among other things, noise, smell, whatever. But I will tell you that nobody's going to watch it closer than the state. It is a really big deal for them. So I don't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak. But I just know that with what's going on in the current environment and with the landfills, the way they're filling and what's going on, that cities need to be taking a look forward at how are we going to handle this so that we don't have, so that we have responsible ways to handle it and have solutions that don't drive the cost way up for the residents as that continues to go. So on average, you can take about 6 trucks worth of trash in one semi, as opposed to having all of those trucks make those long treks to the landfills, and prices just skyrocket when those landfill solutions get further and further out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Next item will be to approve the conditional use permit for 14820 North Industrial Drive. We'll have a motion to approve.
So moved.
For a second. All right, Jack, is there anything else?
Yeah, if I could, there are several things that are, that were posed during the public hearing that I would like to provide you all with the answers to. Our regulatory scheme is such that any MSW permit that they would obtain from the state is a prerequisite to operation here. They currently have a business license, occupation license, whatever you want to call it, that allows them to operate the C&D. In order to change that over to or add MSW as they're proposing, they would have to provide us with a copy of that state license, and it would also require them to amend their actual application. No additional fees. We just need to have them telling us exactly what's going on. And one of the code provisions that we implemented about 5 years ago is that any industry that has a statewide permit that is required to operate, they have to give it to us and maintain it during their operations here. So we need to see those. That was a process that came out of, we had an issue with a massaging place. And the way that we added that regulation was that every massage therapist at that facility had to have a state license, and they had to provide it to us, or they couldn't be in operation. Same thing would apply to this business. Same thing applies with the medical marijuana business. They had to provide us with a copy of their state approval before we could issue our occupation license. So those aspects are the same. The only other conditions that I've recommended in the application is that the opportunity for trash and odor inspections to occur, with a process that if we see something, we provide them with, hey, there's a problem, you need to address it. And then they have time to address it. If they don't, then we can move to cancel or pause at least the conditional use permit until they come back before you all and clarify, if that makes sense. That's the recommendation in the staff report.
I have a question. That with this conditional use permit, like it was asked, is it the owner that has that, or is it the business? So if this business were to sell, do we have to go through this process again?
No,
Explain that.
this is a zoning determination, so it applies to the land. That's why the condition was worded the way it was. So it doesn't matter if it's the Finkeys operating or somebody else, we would have the ability to come in. with the heavier hand.
Just so I understand this, you currently accept, construction debris and recycling?
Yes.
And we want to expand this to include basically household solid waste.
Yes.
Okay. And a transfer station, this is new to me. I apologize.
Yeah.
A transfer station basically takes in the trash and then transfers it,
To the.
loads it onto other,
So the way it works, we have what's called a tipping floor it's inside the building. So you pull like a dumpster truck or a dump trailer would pull up and then we back there, like we can dump 4 at a time. They back inside the building and they dump on the floor.
okay,
And then our wheel loader pushes it to the back wall and the excavator, there's a lower level. We have about a 4-foot concrete wall and below that 16 feet where a semi sits a transfer trailer.
so it's just pushed in.
So we just transfer it, right into the trailer. We tarp the trailer inside the building, send it straight to the landfill.
And the purpose is money saving because a truck can hold vastly more than a dump truck.
Yes, and for instance, like St. Joe doesn't allow transfer trailers. They do, but they made it $150 a ton. So they basically said no transfer trailers. So right now there's only 2 options, which is Courtney Ridge owned by Republic and then Johnson County owned by Waste Management. The problem, like running a dumpster company, for instance, if we're a larger company, so we do, around 70 or so a week, but like we dump at 5 to 6 transfer stations every day. So if I have one truck that's going to stay in the Grandview area, they would dump at his facility and they would stay in that area all day instead of, because the lines get really long at the landfill and the other thing is they don't want the traffic at the landfill. So Waste Management and Republic at their landfills have forced this a little bit because the price will be higher than what the transfer stations are to keep you from coming in there. So it allows you to do 7 or 8 dumpsters per truck per day rather than doing 2 or 3. And it just makes the cost stay down, really.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
As far as the additional traffic, what's that impact?
You guys run mostly during the day, right? You guys mostly run during the daytime?
Yeah, only during.
Yeah, so say our traffic's heaviest rush hour.
Yeah, early morning and
Yeah.
late afternoon are the 2. Fortunately or unfortunately, this entire development until the connection on commercial, I think that Mr. Cercione meant, until that occurs, the traffic study that was performed initially is still valid. It anticipated traffic. The point of my staff report is with these additional vehicles coming in with additional waste, different type, the traffic will go up. We have not heard of any issues traffic wise.
I mean, the car wash when it's a sunny day is gonna have more traffic than this ever will.
And another, if I may, we got to have a certain tonnage per day to keep the lights on. So for us, it's better to take MSW because those trucks, when they come in, they're going to weigh between 8 and 10 ton a load, where a normal C&D dumpster is going to average 3 ton. So we got to get to here one way or another. If it's just C&D, it'll be double the traffic than what, if we add MSW in there. It's still, there's still trucks coming in and it's going to be that issue. But really for us, we anticipate that it will go down when we're at where we need to be.
We're getting closer on commercial with
Yeah.
KCIRV,
Yeah, well, KCIRV's next phase will
yeah,
will
or
require the
148th
street.
Street.
Yeah, will require 148th Street. If I could ask you to answer a question to clarify, what is your operationally anticipated schedule of vehicles coming in? Are they coming in early in the morning? Are they coming in late morning, early,
We have a group that comes in early, like right at between 6 and 6:30. It's heavier right then. Then we have a break and it's more between 10 and 2:30 or 3. Almost nothing after 3, even though we're open till 5 or 6. That's, most dumpster companies and trash companies especially, they want to be, they're starting at 5 in the morning, so they want to be done at 2:30. So those trucks dump once a day at the end of the day. So the end of their day is somewhere between 1:30 and 2:30. So, but the dumpster trucks will dump several times per day.
So, gentleman who spoke from Grandview, I did go check his reviews. Are you guys going to take consumer direct waste, or are you going to only do business to business? Because at Grandview, they're taking.
Yes, we will
individuals.
take concern, and we are letting individual people come in now with C&D.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of people in town come in, about 60 to 70 per week, coming in with trailers and just truckloads.
Okay.
You were talking about like maybe around 2:00, 2:30 or so. Yesterday I was going south at about 3:00 and both lanes coming north was backed up clear down to the storage facilities that individuals could use. That was like at 3:00. So that's my big concern is how much traffic's coming. There was no accident or anything, but
oh, you're just saying.
northbound
traffic.
lanes
Okay.
on
northbound.
169 was clear back
Yes.
almost to the
okay.
top of the hill.
So
So that's a big concern to me is the traffic.
In our line of work, we want to know that because we avoid it like the plague. So for us, we can't make any money if we're sitting in traffic. So if they see that, they'll avoid it that certain times of day, especially. I know my guys do, and we move them around depending, we got a couple transfer stations. There are certain times of the day we don't go near them.
And one of the things that's going to reduce the traffic study we had too is the truck driving school's not going in there right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the truck driving school is
something
going
else.
to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, that has no traffic.
Yeah.
And we are also buying the lot from Bill Mann across from us to the east by the electrical substation area. We put a contract on that with no contingencies to close this year as well. So we're just, we know that it would impact them a little bit traffic wise coming out. So we came together on that and made a deal on that lot.
Now, to clarify, that lot would not be subject to any of the stuff we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm going to share my concern. Last month, we talked about CPUs with like business signs. And then we started having so many that we kind of looked at the ordinances because we were talking about that with the accessory dwelling units.
Oh, okay.
Of starting with conditional use permits. So here we have another conditional use permit. But I remember you making the comment, for a while we did conditional use permits and then we had more requests. So we just put it into the ordinances.
Yes.
That's my concern here. We have one transfer station now. So would somebody else come to us and want to come to Smithville and put another one in and we do another conditional use permit? And before long, we become not necessarily a landfill, but pretty close to it, in my opinion. And that's my concern. I don't want that for our community.
I think one of the benefits of being out of industrial land is they don't have anywhere else to go, right? This can only be an
Right. It's only an I-1 or I-2.
But like,
Yeah, no, and I
here's where
don't.
I'm going.
Yes.
We have land up north that's between two areas that are within the in the city limits now, and it's not. Out there between Wildflower and Herzog's. There's land out there that's not within the city limits right now. If they were to come in to annex that and want to go industrial, and we did that, we could have another one up north. I don't want this to expand.
Sure. And let me clarify, This is a zoning determination, so it has, the Board of Aldermen has a lot more discretion. It's not an administrative determination where it's, okay, they met the standards. This one has a lot more flexibility for the Board of Aldermen to address. And that would be a valid concern for the board to deny one, either now or in the future.
I guess that's why I'm speaking. I'm the alderman. so-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you guys would have, on the alderman level, a much broader brush to handle.
I think the existing comp plan wouldn't allow industrial anywhere
Yeah.
between
But I'm just,
downtown
Yeah.
and W.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just voicing a concern.
Sure. Right
the
now, the comp
citizens.
plan has industrial basically centered right around industrial and Park Drive in that general vicinity. Some of it can go further south, some of it can
So
go further
there'll
north.
never be houses in that area.
No, no.
It's a cliff off the back, isn't it?
But the thing is,
Yeah.
that land up there isn't in the city limits right now, so somebody from the county could do that. Would that be correct?
On
So
the,
if they could-
yeah,
okay,
if somebody from the county did it, they could
Right.
do it whether this went in or not. They could do it however the
And
county.
that's my concern. If we move forwards with this, would somebody think the same thing? And I'm just what ifing.
Yeah,
about
no,
the
and I
future
fully
of the
understand.
community.
I want you to be aware of two aspects of it. Like I said, it's much more difficult to go through one of these at the level of the Board of Aldermen. And competition is going to be an issue. So the likelihood of having multiple ones in one city or one area will be, I think the transfer stations want to get spotted around.
Yeah.
So that they can have, they're trying to avoid driving. So I'm giving you that.
This
from-
will be the only one north of the river, C and D or otherwise. And the reason being is this area just can't support that. That's why ours is on the smaller side. Their facility is much different and the ones downtown. Ideally, you don't want anyone within 15 to 20 miles, transfer station wise. Especially in the same, city. And Kansas City has a moratorium on it as well right now because, they have 6 or 7 in the city already. So, there's just not a need south of the river for that. And up here, there's just not, just not enough commerce for it to make it work, or they would have already been in all the municipalities.
Thank you.
Done.
So I guess the next question is, because I think can we break these out into individual yeses or nos, or do we have to vote the entire thing?
No, this
Go ahead and
is
break it
the
up.
standard findings of fact. You can vote on each item 1 through 9 on here. This one has 9 versus the standard 8 because I added the conditional language as number 8. And that's the condition for trash, blowing trash and smell. The two most common concerns. That's more fixated with a landfill than one of these facilities, but that's why I put that one in there. So you can vote on individually, you can vote on them all. You can take a motion for just one of them. If somebody wants to adjust it, the language, I don't like what number 2 says. Can we change that? Or the condition, to be quite frank, in number 8, whatever. So you can, or you can just say the findings of fact as they're written.
Okay.
Just like we do on regular zoning. This is just a zoning determination.
So is there any appetite to do that with any of these, or should we just vote on this thing as a whole? There was just is some specific concerns that Alderman Wilson has. But you want to wait to address that at the board, or
Oh,
this
we can
passes?
forward.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Okay. Rob,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
No,
Chevalier,
Aye.
Billy,
Aye.
Mayor Boley,
Aye.
and Wallace.
Aye.
So that is 5-1.
This will be, this will be on the agenda next week before the Board of Aldermen at 7 PM.
All right, our next item will be to discuss the accelerated dwelling units. Let's see, we have some paperwork here. Jack, what do we got?
Well, we're going to start with Will. Take the reins here. Will has been doing all the research on this. He's been doing all the legwork on this. And he made the presentation to y'all last week. And I want him to make that continuous, so we have some consistency there. So I'll give it to Will. He can go over the comments and the rough recommendations so that we can hopefully be in a position maybe next month or the month after to have an ordinance, depending on what you say.
Thanks for sticking with us, by the way.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next time, maybe we should put him at the front of the agenda.
That'd be nice. So I received a few emails from the board. So on our first slide, we have kind of some stuff that we agree on, and we need to finalize some intricacies. Seems like we are in agreement that we want to keep the ADUs on the back of the side of the home. I did receive one recommendation about possible setbacks or screenings. So that's something to discuss. I don't know if we want to have discussion on that per each item or have me go throughout this bullet list. But max occupancy was recommended, possibly just two, having an owner occupancy requirement. Further on that, like how might we enforce this? Requiring an affidavit signed or even having that recorded in the deed restriction with the county. This one's just a given, obviously comply with all building code requirements. We received one recommendation for having lot size 1 acre minimum for detached. No one had any recommendations on certain districting, allowing in certain districts. We can simply base off of lot coverages. That might push out some of the newer subdivisions that we spoke about last time that are already at their capacity of their 30%. Had a recommendation to require off-street parking. That just kind of helps out for fire safety, in my opinion. One recommendation for the size limitation for the actual ADU. This would be, I believe it was speaking to detached, 500 to 750 square foot. On the research for different cities around the metro, that was about where we set with average size home and average lot size. That's generally in the middle. I believe we're all in agreement for, just keeping similar design, keeping good look. That's the final bullet point there. If we're moving along, we have some things to discuss further. One recommendation we received to allow only family members into the ADUs. Another was, keep it less restrictive. One of them was even if we wanted to allow attached or restricting detached to 150 feet from the primary home, possibly having a paved drive. That was also on one of the recommendations from Chief Klein, safety concern. We did receive one recommendation for separate utilities. Jack and I have some concerns on that, just generally for water. Just having different, any break in the line is a possible place for a leak. If they want to charge their tenants, they can possibly set up their own meter. We did receive a recommendation to allow for rental use. So further discussion, does that involve short-term rental? Do we want to even discuss business use or keep it less restrictive? I don't believe we got a recommendation from the board or an email from the board talking about possibly notifying neighbors. That might be something to think about, especially if you're addressing business use. We did have one, I don't think anyone spoke to if there is a primary residence on. I just didn't get any recommendations from the emails from the board on that, so I added that in there. Keeping single ownership over, the ADU and the primary dwelling unit. That just wasn't addressed. And either wasn't addressed for keeping one ADU per lot. So these are just some areas that we do need to, some intricacies that we need to discuss further, so.
Well, we can.
If I could, I would like to supplement a little bit. A couple of points. This ADU will only apply to the A1, the AR, and the R1 variations, 1A, B, C, and D. Because if it's R2, they can already do an accessory dwelling. It's two-family. Same with R3. And all the concerns with R2 and R3 substantially go away by their own regulations. If they want to build a ADU in those circumstances, they still have the R2 rules to address, but they can have two full facilities on R2 or R3. So this is literally A1, AR, and the R1 districts, and there's A through M, I think.
What about B4?
B4 from a, I mean, you could already operate a hotel
Yeah.
or those types of things. So I don't know. I mean, it's allowed somewhat already. The bigger issue, to be quite frank, in the B4 district is going to be lot coverage.
Yeah.
Can they get one to fit?
Yeah. Okay.
And I think screening requirements possibly, because it seems like B4 district is a little bit more close together.
Yeah.
Out in the open.
There's just a few homes in it that, yeah. But there's already multifamily and
Sure.
triplexes and things, so.
Yeah.
So on the family member caretaker, my only concern is if they build it for mom to stay and mom passes away, then we've got a vacant property in town that can't be reoccupied. So using it as a short-term rental or rental at that point for makes sense. Or if they sell it, then it's, not usable unless it's a family member. So that restricting on that is a concern to me.
Yeah, I don't think we should restrict that.
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge.
And how would we enforce that?
Right.
Yeah.
We
I
can't-
can say it's
that's
my
what we're worried
brother.
about.
I mean, I'm my brother.
Yeah.
Knock on their door and ask for their papers once a year?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, ultimately, if you do it, Will mentioned this earlier, a lot of communities have a annual affidavit requirement.
Yeah.
You have to come in and fill out the affidavit. Under penalty of perjury and all the other things that get you into more trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's something we don't need to
Yeah, it's,
restrict on it because you run in the scenario of, yeah.
Because I'm the one that put that in there. My question would be, if it's not, if it's not a family member that's going to be living there, to me, that was one of the main reasons for building them, for doing this. So that's why I put that in there. So then when we're talking about, okay, using it for a short-term rental, then we're getting into, to me, what we're doing with the Airbnbs now. So then how would that go with what we just put into effect about just one Airbnb within
I think it's,
so much of a block?
yeah,
How would that fit into this then?
I think that would have to be, that'd have to be considered as if,
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
there's already an
that-
Airbnb on this, or
Right.
short-term
Right.
rental on the street,
Right.
then,
And that would, unless this was crafted to prohibit STRs completely in an ADU scenario, they would be allowed, but they would have to meet all those other standards under the
Okay.
short-term rental.
yeah, and I'm kind of thinking, definitely against having a short-term rental in these. I think these should be more for like a, long-term type situation.
Well, and
Person.
that goes to the question, is this to increase affordable housing? To provide additional housing options that are more affordable? Or you know, the short-term rental side. of it.
Because my visions of these is like, seeing, friends that have pool houses and things like that, where, they have other friends stay when they're down on their luck or something like that. Kids stay while they're going through college, things like that, and even high school. I don't really think a use case is great to use it as a short-term rental.
Sure. And I would, to give you a visual, these were very, very popular post-World War II. And the best example on TV is Happy Days. Fonzie lived up in an accessory dwelling unit in the garage. So, that's the scenario you're looking at as an option. So however you want to focus it, we
Right.
we can craft it either way.
As long as Brandy gets that reference, because, I think she's the youngest one here.
All right,
Will's
so-
young.
I mean, I will, I guess. Yeah.
So we want to go over these one by one here. I mean, we already started with the allow family members. We just want to go to the next one and then just start checking them off. Will, is that kind of what you're looking to do?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, because all of these, most of these on the back here, the further discussion, it's, you guys need to hash it out on it. Because it's kind of an either or.
All right, so we okay with the first one? You have kind of what you need on that? Okay. Attached, we'll do the second one here, allowing attached or basement in-law quarters or restrict to detached within 100 feet of primary.
I think I've seen the scenario where it's like the ranch that's got both entries and it works. I think.
Right. There are two aspects of that, and I'll clarify. Will has specifically identified it in here. We allow in-law quarters in a house as long as you can communicate
Right.
through
right.
that. As long as there's a door to the basement, it has to be, you can't take the door out and put up solid wall, because as soon as you do that, then you've got an accessory dwelling in it. And it would be an internal accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the house that had the hallway behind the garage.
Yep. Yeah, because they were wanting to communicate through the garage, but it has to be
Yeah.
communicate through habitable space. You can't do that in a garage. It's not, they're unheated.
Yeah, and I know there's some bigger lots in town that they can
Mhm.
easily put it on the other side of the garage where it's still attached and
Yeah.
maybe save some money on building and utilities and all those
Yeah.
things.
And to be quite frank, that one specifically was on a very large lot.
Yeah.
They were,
So I think
And-
and we could do that where if it's a bigger than 3 lot or what, AR situation, they can do an attached. I don't know how well it would work on a,
well, and
Smaller
that
lot.
becomes the question, do you want to have somebody be able to put one in their basement as an accessory dwelling unit that has full plumbing, full kitchen, full everything, and blocks it off so there's no communication between them? I will tell you in old style flats like in St. Louis, you have those 2 and 4 family flats. Those were they were in multifamily, but they were purely communicatable. You can walk between them. There's a hallway and a door and all of it's habitable. So in this scenario, it becomes how do you want to handle it?
is there any conflict on fire code when it comes to something like that?
Yeah, you would have to have, those are the separate utilities kind of deal. You would have to have everything to be able to shut off.
So if they had a ranch style house that had no staircase to go between the 2 floors, they'd have to have separate shut offs
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. And I believe,
But those are things that can be handled inside the structure.
Gotcha.
right.
Yeah.
And I believe you'd have to have, I believe there would be a fire requirement just as multifamily. So fire rating, I believe is 1 hour.
Yeah.
Between
They'd
the
have
two.
to,
Yeah.
if they've got a 1/2 inch drywall, they'd have to put another set of 1/2 inch up to get it to at least to the 5/8.
Gotcha.
That would be walls, if it's a basement, the whole ceiling and that whole thing would have to be protected that
I
way.
believe ductwork might have to be, it would have to be separated as well. That would, I believe those would be the biggest
Gotcha.
deals.
Wouldn't that turn it into a duplex?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I
Like in an R1 home or an R1 neighborhood, is that even, doesn't that kind of prevent that from happening?
Well, from a certain standpoint, I guess we could look at it this way. Is it more of a duplex scenario when you have 2 separate houses on one lot? versus two in one building.
If you're separating them, yeah, it becomes a duplex.
Right. Well, if you keep them together, it's a duplex. If you have separate, you have two. So
The box, yeah.
from the zoning standpoint, it becomes irrelevant because this would change that. This would allow you to have an ADU. How we word that becomes the question, but yeah.
I know you said last meeting that, you know, you've had a few people ask for these over the years. Has anyone ever asked for anything like that? Because I mean, that just seems kind of weird to me that someone would do that versus just add an addition to their house or something like that.
Well, the
for
one you
somebody.
brought up last time with the house plan that came to the
Yeah.
permit review, that's how it was separated. Like one was on one side.
One side of the garage and
other
one was
side
on
of
the other. It was all one house looking thing, but it was completely separated. And to be quite frank, it was literally a mother-in-law's.
Yeah, you
quarters.
couldn't enter the mother-in-law suite from the house without going outside.
I still kind of see that more as an addition
Can't-
anyways. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, you know, I definitely don't see the basement thing. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me.
You know, yeah, think about that. If you have to have inhabitable area going in, what would be the difference between somebody having a 3-bedroom house and renting a room out to somebody?
Wasn't the house on
They can do
Brass,
that now.
I know, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
but wasn't the house on Brassfield kind of that way, that between Brassfield and Meadow, they had an entrance on the back, entrance on the front, and it was divided. They just
Well,
undivided it.
unfortunately, there's a whole lot of stuff down here
Yeah.
in the downtown area that way, a ton. The middle house over on Mill Street used to be a duplex.
There's a triplex over here like that, right?
But no,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, like that scenario with the garage. I mean, I just feel like that's an add-on to a house. I mean, I don't see that as an ADU. To me, an ADU is something that's a separate
A
structure.
pool house,
Up like a pool house.
a boxable or,
Yeah.
carriage house, whatever.
So that's kind of what I feel like we should be
And that's
focusing on.
perfectly, that
I
makes
think you
my
gotta
job and
limit
Will's
the
job a
size
lot
of it,
easier
too.
to draft them that way than having all the other options. If it's an exterior unattached structure, it gets real easy on how we do that.
But if someone wanted to do that, I mean, what you're talking about, I mean, I guess maybe we'll figure out why they can't do that.
Well,
and
like-
fix that issue too.
Well, like what he mentioned is, you know, like if you think about the ranch style houses that are over here that have a garage, if you built above the garage and had a separate staircase, that's not detached, but it's separate entrances and there's no way to go between them. That's the Happy Days situation you're talking about, right? Like,
Or a detached garage.
yeah, or
The
detached
option.
garage, that's,
Wouldn't that just simply fall under planning and zoning? I mean,
Well,
what plans have to be approved?
Well, it depends. We have building plans approval and we have zoning approval. And if somebody in that scenario wanted to do it without an ADU, situation where they built a bonus room above and it was
Sure.
accessible from outside, not from the house,
Yes.
that would not be allowed in single family. Unless we had an ADU ability to have it attached to the main.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I mean, I guess that would be something that I think that we should be addressing as well, because I mean, I don't see a problem with that either.
Yeah.
But but
in
can
that
that just
same
be a separate
scenario,
thing?
If somebody put a solid core door between the two, then it's fine.
Well, if there's at that point, if there's a door that is operational between them, yes.
part of the house.
It's part of the house. And if the tenant moves out and somebody buys the house, they don't have to operate it that way. They just got a door that leads into the other side.
Completely understand.
Okay. And that's that communication element. As long as you can walk from one to the other inside.
is that what the code actually says? You have to go walk through it. It can't just be a hole in the wall that says hi.
Yeah,
You're
no,
talking about communication.
right. The way the code is written is each separate structure on a single family lot, you can only have one kitchen set of kitchen facilities. So you could build 6 of them in your house if they didn't have kitchen facilities, and they could all be separate entrances. If they don't have kitchen facilities, but then they don't become a true house. They're like a home or a rental room, something. So the kitchen facilities is the structure that our ordinance pushes it through.
So Jack, what's or Will, what's the smallest we allow for apartments?
400.
400.
That's a apartment unit.
So I think when we write this, we should probably write it to square footage equal to the apartment code, just so we don't have to constantly be going back with 350, 400,
Yeah.
That way, if we adjust the apartment code, we adjust it up. That's really what in the,
Can you set it up by the size of the house and let's say it's a percentage of the
And that's
house?
what most jurisdictions are doing.
Because then it still allows smaller homes to still have one and it wouldn't be out of balance of the neighborhood, I think.
Yeah, a lot of time. There was a chart on the last one. We can bring it up if we need to, but it was anywhere from 50% of the size of or it's either living space or the entire structure of the main. Anywhere from 50 to about 80. And then they also had the maximum size on that attached to that as well.
I think like boxables and stuff are 300. So I mean, if we go down to studio apartment size,
Right.
it's-
Yeah.
Well, and that's what was going to be the last question I brought up, because I know that there are those container homes.
Amazon has. some
Yeah,
stuff
and there are all
places.
kinds of, and they're all, to be quite frank, rather reasonably priced, but getting them to look like the rest of the houses becomes a little bit more
Yeah.
difficult to do, because they're these modern structures. But they have those as opportunities. From my perspective, that would be the conditional use permit scenario. Somebody wants to build one, they have to give us the plans, the layout, what it's going to look like, where they're going to put it. And you guys get to decide if they get the approval, so that it's a zoning level. It gives this commission and the Board of Aldermen much more control and discretion. And then when you get through that portion of it, if we do 40 of these, similar to the issue that Alderman Wilson brought up, if we, like we did with the electronic signs, if we do 40 of them and we finally boil it down to, well, these are the only things we're concerned about, then we can craft it to an ordinance and take it out of the conditional use permit scenario, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, whatever.
Yeah, so I want to keep this moving here. So we're still on this attached basement in-laws. I mean, my feelings are that we're not handling attached. I think these should be separate structures that what we're talking about today. And like, if there's a garage that's not attached to the house and they want to put it on top of that garage, I think that would fall under this, right?
Yeah, it's a separate structure,
Yeah.
so it would, yeah.
So,
And detached becomes the critical element. In that scenario, detached has to be no closer. If it's an accessory structure now, not addressing the use, it can be no closer than 5 feet to the existing structure. So that would be the closest, and that's an accessory dwelling issue that the fire code brings in. So that's in there. If it's an existing one that's at least 5 feet away, it's capable.
then let's move to the next. Robert, you good? Will, you good with that for right
Yes, sir.
now? Okay. Separate utilities. I don't think that's a good idea. I think this should just be whatever the house gets and the house controls.
And that, if there is a concern that you want to be able to have those tenants having their own water bill or whatever, you can certainly put in a deduct meter. It's a plumbing meter that you can put in. It's a deduct. And then when you get the bill, you know how many gallons they use, you know how many you used, and it works that way. I
It also-
don't
it
know if
also
that's
sta-
allowed under the NEC.
The NEC, you can still set that up as a sub panel, and realistically, you'd want that to be a sub panel so that the fire
Yeah.
department showed up, they'd shut one disconnect off, kill the house and the exterior building. And then after the fire was put out or whatever, if it was in the auxiliary building, at that point, then you could terminate power to that from within the house and be.
Yeah.
From
move on with that.
overall water bill and electric bill standpoint too, the base charge is getting up to the point of more than the usage would be on these things probably.
Right.
'Cause you can-
Exactly.
You can do a simple current.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's why I threw that to Billy, because I knew he'd have the electrical answer.
Yeah.
The bigger thing, to be quite frank, to me, is where they run the sewer, how they get that, because that's gravity, unless they put a pump in every one of these and get them into the house, to then go into the system. Because we certainly, don't want them tapping, just like Will mentioned with the water lines. We don't want them tapping the sewer lines for the same reasons. Especially if the sewer's on the other side of the road.
Yeah, I think,
Water on the other side of the road's easy.
well,
Yeah,
well, on their sewer lines too, if they're gonna tap it, they're gonna probably have to replace their service line if it's clay or anything anyway, right? So,
yeah, they're gonna get into other issues.
yeah.
But yeah, you know, keeping the utilities through the main house, however that works, is the best protective measure from the city's perspective. It's not as convenient to the main owner, the principal owner, or the property owner and their tenant. It's not as convenient to them, but I don't know that we're trying to make this as convenient to them. We want to make it as
Well, if
few
it's
as
a-
burdens to
if
the
it's-
infrastructure.
If it's a caretaker or relative, you're probably not nickel and diming utilities, possibly, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe Melissa's gonna keep an accurate reading.
Yeah, I was going to keep accurate.
You left that light bulb on too long.
That's right.
Yeah, just don't let Nick Saban run it, right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good on utilities. Okay. Recommend to allow rental use, short-term rental or business use.
So I have a question on this one, Jack. Does the state statute on home-based businesses trump this? Because we can't regulate home-based businesses now.
Well, we can regulate them to a certain extent. We can't completely do it, but in a separate structure scenario, if we're adding traffic and all those other things, it becomes problematic. The easier structure is in an accessory unit, you do not, you just exclude home occupations. This is an accessory dwelling that is supporting the main use.
I don't think there should be any businesses or short-term rentals in that, because we don't want to set that up as a, we want it to
No.
be strictly for that resident. If you want to rent it out to your or somebody that needs help for a year, then that's good, but I don't think we should be doing.
I
that.
agree.
No,
Because
I agree.
that's gonna be moving a lot more people in and out, and I think that's just not it.
Well, and then all the other concerns of noise and all that
Yeah.
become more acute because it's so close. It's in the backside of the house, et cetera. But it does become less problematic because the owners, if you got parties going on out there, the owner's here, so.
Yeah, unless he likes to
Yeah.
drink too. so
Yeah,
then he might
well,
go-
yeah. Yes.
You don't have to have an AD to do that.
No.
Still parties till 11 o'clock.
All right, so we're good on that.
What do we decide? Can they use them for business or not? I mean, if somebody wants to build a little building and put in a hair salon,
I'd say no.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
no,
Not in
No.
favor of that.
I'm in favor of that.
You are?
In favor of no.
Okay, okay, okay.
And then notification for neighbors, do we require that on anything else?
If it's, well, if it is a special use permit, conditional use permit scenario, yes,
Yeah.
the notice will
So
go
we
out.
do notify with the certified mail
Mhm.
right now?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
with the baseball field, we
Yep.
just send it out. Okay,
Just like this
Yeah.
CUP that came today,
okay.
185 feet,
Yeah,
So
so
that's just the immediate neighbors right
100
next door, or 185 feet?
185
Okay.
feet.
Okay, we're gonna move on to, oh yeah, we missed that one, notifications, but we're good then, right?
Yep.
Okay. Must be a primary or principal residence. I'm gonna go on a limb and say yes.
Can't rent out both. And that ties to the owner occupied part too.
Primary accessory dwelling on a single, single ownership, cannot be sold separately. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
battery still separate.
Yeah, and those sold separately scenarios becomes, from a banking standpoint, nearly impossible if they can't divide it. If they
Yeah.
can't divide those units, which is what you may see in the duplex scenario at Eagle Ridge, where you got two families. Those are all divided. We require them now, all multifamily, to be divided as separate units or separate buildings, depending on how they do the infrastructure. And that has to occur at the beginning. So there's no,
That's
we no
on-
longer have the,
On the site, like that's upfront, they're
Yep.
separate lots.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
We can't split lots on these.
right, these, because this is an accessory dwelling, it does not allow you to split the lot
Lot.
specifically.
And without separate utilities, that'll never get,
Yeah, it'd never get financed. You'd never get a loan to buy it.
All right, restrict to 1 ADU per lot. That sounds
Yep.
Yeah.
right. Yep, okay. Location, back or side of home. Possible setback changes or screening requirements, restrict secondary entrance on the front or stairway to second entrance in the front. So my thoughts are, back is probably the most feasible for this. I just can't see too many options for a side unless there's significant screening.
Or unless, I mean, if it's on a 5 or 10 acre
That's what I
lot,
was,
True, yeah, that's, I'm just thinking more in terms of like.
we just don't want them in the
neighborhood.
front, like, if you put it in the front of the primary house that on a 10 acre lot that's got a big setback.
Yeah.
It would,
that's where I put the side in, like if you had somebody that had the 5 acres or 10 acres or whatever on some of those bigger
And to be
subdivisions.
quite
where they
frank,
could put
depending
them
on,
the side.
depending on the size of the unit and where the original house, it could actually sit in an R1A scenario, because those have to be minimum 100 feet wide. Depends on how big the original house is, and if it's off to one side, you could theoretically get it in there. But sitting it back becomes, it's truly an accessory. It's not an addition. This isn't an additional dwelling unit. It's an accessory.
Accessory, yeah.
And we can add in further restrictions on it, further setbacks saying, you know, it's got to be 6 foot behind the house, or it has to be 20 feet from the rear property line. That's something that Liberty recommended. Just to keep it in with aesthetics.
If
Alright.
it's in the rear of the home, how does that work with the fire department?
They want to have access, just like if it's a garage.
So there would have to be a driveway to the ADU?
Depends on how long it is. As long as they can get from a hydrant 300 feet, it's covered. But if they've got to go, you know, up and down a wall or something like, you know, something really difficult, their ability to get to it becomes problematic. So there has to be an accessible path to it. And the secondary tie into that becomes then, what about off-street parking? So if you've got a separate.
Yeah, the fire chief's recommendation on that was keep it within 100 feet of the primary. That's for being able to get the water there. And I think he said he would like to see paved driveway with specs to be able to hold that fire truck on there, be able to get there.
Now, and that part I fully understand from his standpoint. However, I will tell you, there isn't a single family residence in Smithfield that meets that standard for the main house.
But you got 60,000 pounds. You know,
Yeah, well, and the thickness is, yeah, I mean, it's massive. You know, be 5,000 PSI, 8-inch concrete. We have 4,004 inches the stand. We don't even have 4,000 off the street. We have 6-inch approaches for the city approach, your driveway approach. It's 6 inches thick with 4,000 PSI
with no rebar.
with no rebar. Well, 4,000 PSI takes care of that. So,
Maybe.
All right, so we're good with that? Next question. All right, next one is the max occupancy, owner occupancy requirement. Require affidavit or deed restriction. I mean, I'm thinking 2. Max. Sounds good, right?
You can also base it off of square footage too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
If you're
Not if
Yeah.
you've got, you know, a sister or brother with 2 kids, what do you do?
it usually goes adult occupants.
Well, I mean, is that the way, is it adults, 2 adults? But then we don't want to have like something, well, I mean,
well, if
I don't
you
know.
allow, hey, John, here's the problem. If
Yeah.
you allow children, where do you draw the line?
I know.
When they get their license, now they're an adult, they can
Yeah,
drive their own
true.
car and cause all the other problems. So that becomes the issue. But ultimately, being an accessory dwelling, you've got a young married couple living back there. They happen to have a kid, they gotta be gone. So you leave it at 2 or do it at 3. That gives them the ability. Again, if we're trying to focus on the affordable housing scenario, I think we need to give those latitudes a little bit. A limit to 3 in a family. That could be the other thing. So that way you don't have 3 adult roommates.
I will say, Jack, I'm not looking at these as affordable housing. I'm looking at them as accessory for family members or like somebody that's fallen on hard times, but not affordable housing.
Now, I will tell you, that is what everybody thinks except for the owners. The owners, after the first person's gone, that's income. That's gonna pay my mortgage, or help me pay my mortgage. So that's, the reality of it becomes that.
And in reality, guys, we're talking 500, 700 square feet, 400, what, I mean, back in 1950, you'd have a 6-person family in a house that size.
Well, it'd be
So-
1,100, but yeah.
I mean,
But times have changed.
Yeah.
I understand that, but we're talking about somebody who's, I think it should be based on square footage.
But then you might have the situation, let's say you do 400 square feet, but you've got that mother who's in a rough situation and she's got 3 young children and she needs to leave the situation she's in and she could go here for a while. So then your square footage would go out the door if you were willing to help that individual on the other side.
I mean, is it possible to do 2 adults over 18 and not even mention anything about kids?
It's kind of what you do with your Airbnbs, isn't it, by adults?
Well, the other option would be to limit the number of bedrooms.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's 1 bedroom. I mean, I don't know how you're gonna be able to.
Well, it could be,
multiple
you
bedrooms.
could fit 2 easy. Yeah, you could fit 2 in there easy, but
I like that. I'm for that. 2 adults over the age 18.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
no more than 2 unrelated adults.
That sound okay?
Going back to the bedrooms, I mean, we're assuming it's a 1-bedroom, but what's the square footage maximum that we're talking about?
750. What was the recommendation on it?
Well,
There-
I mean, if it was
there's
50%
2-bedroom
of a
houses.
standard 2,000 square foot,
And even if you do 50%, like in the, our house, if we do 50%, you could have a 1,600 square foot.
yeah, depending on how big the house is. it
And
could
there's a
fit.
lot of 3-bedroom houses out there, 1,600 square feet.
Well, there's a lot of them here in town that are 1,400. They're 3-bedroom, single bath.
All right, well, we're skipping ahead to the size limitations then. We can go ahead and,
Well,
talk
sometimes
about
they're
it.
tied together.
Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes they're tied together.
so you guys are suggesting 500 to 750. I'm thinking that's a feasible, well, I guess you're right. I mean, if there is a larger home without larger amount of land, I mean, maybe they might want to build something a little bigger. I don't know.
I know the one on Mount Olivet's at least 1,400. I mean, it's a ranch style house that's an ADU.
Several homes in the area that have ADUs that are substantial.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're talking about the ability to do a 2 or even 3-bedroom ADU. I don't know that we can cap it at 2 related adults in a 3-bedroom situation or even a 2-bedroom situation. We could cap it like we do short-term rentals at 2 per bedroom.
Well, we have currently a provision in our code, other than the Oxford House scenario, which is a federal lawsuit that occurred in every state in the jurisdiction, related to like alcohol rehabilitation facilities in homes. Other than that, the standard, and our code is included, it, you can have no more than 5 unrelated individuals in one home. Makes perfect sense until you try to do it, implement it. Because you got mom and her boyfriend and mom's daughter and her boyfriend, and they have 3 kids. What's unrelated?
I think I like your doing the same thing you do with the Airbnbs, like 2 per bedroom, 2 adults per
2
bedroom.
adults per bedroom. Okay, yeah.
If we're gonna base it off of building them by an average or portion of the square feet of the primary residence.
That's way too much. Square footage.
The problem is where you, what the house is that's on the main structure looks like. And what the lot looks like. I think some of it, if you've got a lot of extra land, how big that accessory structure is becomes less important. But if you're in a subdivision, or somewhere down closer to downtown, and you have enough room to put it so you don't go over the 30% slot coverage scenario, you can't get very big with them. It's just because it won't fit. We've got these little parameters, and now we're talking about how do we address all these parameters we've already addressed? I think some of it happens that way logistically.
I think we should just maybe not do anything with size limitations until one comes in and we look at it through the conditional use process, not
Well,
bigger than the primary house.
Right. You need to have some kind of a structure for you guys to evaluate, even in the conditional use permit. We have to have something out
I would
there.
just say no bigger than 90% of the existing structure and
Yeah.
no smaller than 10% or something.
Yeah.
Just give it a window.
As long as we have something like that in there, then if they've got to present, here's what the place is going to look like, here's what the current place looks like, here's the site layout, here's the size compared. And this is the window they've got to fit it in. If they're at 85%, we could say that doesn't fit here. You have the flexibility to say that's too big.
Yeah. 400 square feet looks real small next to 10,000.
Yep.
Yeah. Not that we have a lot of 10,000, but we got some up there.
Okay. Let's talk about this owner occupancy requirement. What do you need to know about that?
Whether or not you want to require someone to be in the primary or the ADU,
Well, yeah.
and then
Yes,
how
they
we're
do.
going to enforce that as well.
Yeah, they do.
So do we want to require an affidavit and have that recorded with the county, or just,
Affidavit sounds great.
Yep. Perfect?
We can, Will and I can come up with some alternatives to that in the language of the code, that what they have to do.
Names on the title or on
Yeah.
the deed or
Yeah.
something.
KC Mo and their short-term rental ordinance requires a notarized affidavit every year for license renewal.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't get recorded as a deed restriction or on title. It's just a annual affidavit, annual license renewal. So would this require a license of some kind?
Well, no, it would have a permit, a conditional use permit.
Do those get renewed?
No, they don't have to, but if we have that in the conditional use permit language for accessory dwelling units, that they have to certify annually that the owner of the land is a resident in one of the units. That's easy enough to do. We can put that in there, and that's just a additional requirement.
I think most ordinances about 3 years.
Every 3.
Yeah, so that's a little more lax.
Yeah, I don't know if every year
Yeah, that would be.
makes sense.
Just used his SDR recommendation. So yeah, 3 years is fine. I don't,
I'd say anywhere.
3 years
maybe
unless there's
more.
property sold or something.
Yeah.
Right.
well, and then when it sells, the new owner's going to be made aware of what their obligations are as well. So
Okay.
that'll be a part of the disclosures on the sale.
So we can change short-term rentals to 3 years as well, right?
Maybe not.
You guys can
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
Okay.
I'll write it however.
All right, next item. Comply with all building code requirements for multifamily or single-family structures.
The multifamily scenario is if you have it inside, I think we've already kind of addressed that. If it's a separate detached structure, then you've got distance requirements. In that scenario, if it's a new facility or new structure going in, it's going to have to be 10 feet, or both units would have to have fire protection on that wall, that adjoining wall.
That brings up a question to me too. So the IRC is coming, or I'm sorry, IRS or IRC.
RC,
Yeah.
residential code.
They're coming out with standards for tiny homes. So I assume this would fall into that standards, correct?
Potentially. I will tell you that when that provision is coming out, that will be an additional appendix that we would have to separately adopt to have those rooms.
Because because a lot of it, like the stairs,
Yeah.
they have different, and they're doing ladders instead of,
Right,
because of the sizing. of it.
right. And that's a true tiny home scenario. I don't know that we want to go there.
I assume they're ADA compliant.
Oh, Christ.
No.
They're not over 50 compliant.
And I think they actually have that already in the 2018. We just didn't adopt that appendix.
Yeah.
If it's not 2018, it's 2021.
I think it's 2021, yeah, because we're on 2023 code.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
well, and the 2024 is getting ready, is where we're going next. So
Yeah,
later this year, actually.
so I think, I don't,
We just
they
want-
definitely need to apply with all
Yeah.
the codes, period.
All the code for sure. I mean, just, well, safety.
And
is
some
gonna
of
have to be
these,
number
some
one
of these
priority.
things will be addressed when we bring the 24 code to you all for that discussion. Because there's a bunch of stuff that's got to be talked about either way. So that will be one of them, how that would impact this. Because to be quite frank, in the IBC, there's already a live-work unit scenario where you can live and work out of the same unit, which wouldn't necessarily, but does have some impact here, could have impact here depending on how that lays out. So there are a lot of rules already out there in the building code. So
Should we good on that?
Yes.
Okay. Lot size, 1 acre minimum, attached if smaller, allow in B4 districts. AD, GAR, simplified based off lot coverage. I think that's kind of what we're
Yeah, it seems like we've kind of addressed
kind of
that.
addressed that already.
yeah. So as I understand it, it would be any lot that could fit one under the other provisions and not go over 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, you could not have one in Grayhawk. Because every home up there is about 28% of the coverage.
Require off-street parking.
Yeah.
Restrictions. We're at the parking one now, guys.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean. We don't require it.
We can write in something as saying, if there's only two and it's not tandem, then to require. Sorry, if it is tandem, then to require, so that one person doesn't get blocked in.
I mean, we have houses that have single driveways
Yeah.
in town already that
Yeah.
that happens, so.
Right.
I mean, as long as they don't block the sidewalk, John's happy.
A lot of the
I mean,
streets.
that is true.
don't have-
Yeah.
Stay off my sidewalk.
Well, and the other aspect of it is notwithstanding Dave Klein's concerns, we'd only need to have an approach. The rest of it could be gravel to go back.
That's true.
Yeah,
It could be gravel. Because obviously if you got to pave it all the way to the back,
yeah,
it becomes, especially when you don't have to pave your own driveway. For example, in a
Right.
commercial, you got some Ronnie Majors up there. He's got those two houses in the bottom of the hill.
180th, you got them
They
all
got
over.
concrete out to the property line and it's gravel the rest of the way until you get to the entrance to the garage.
Yeah,
And it just becomes a function of how far it is.
yeah,
And with our nuisance code, zoning code stuff associated with parking and gravel is allowable.
yeah.
So that can be addressed either way.
I mean, I think as long as if they want to do a split driveway, I don't think we need to have a separate street cut for it, but at least enough driveway that they can park the car.
Yeah, well, and the other aspect of it, to be quite frank, it becomes a decision that's made at the special use permit
Yeah.
scenario. Cause if they've got a 2-car drive over here, and the house only access point is around that way, they're gonna park and then gonna have to walk all the way around. Do they need that little cut?
Thoughts on that or good? Okay. Now,
Leaning
last thing I
towards it,
think
yeah.
we need to talk about is this last one, the ADU shall be of similar design to the primary dwelling. Looks like something straight up an HOA thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that like in some cases, like a pool house or something like that, it may not necessarily be able to look like
Yeah, I don't
the rest of
think,
the house.
I think as long as it looks, as long as it's not ugly corrugated metal. I guess.
Well, and I think you guys probably have
offense, but-
seen the container
Yeah.
home scenarios that are, I mean, they can be almost all glass.
Yeah, the ones that are glass, the boxable stuff,
Yeah.
like the modern white, white, good, nice material and
Yeah.
glass and windows and it's.
Well, they can still put rows on they got the special brackets now, so you can do the roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
No, they
Yeah,
can
they
do
put
it.
a peak, yeah, it looks, as long as,
They
it-
just put siding on the outside of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just don't want to see
a container.
Connex box.
yeah.
Connex box in
A little door, walk through residential door at
Yeah.
the window.
I agree. Yeah, it needs to look, materials we approve for houses.
And we can write in something, no shipping containers, no, movable tiny
No,
homes. So-
unclad
Hey,
shipping
man, it
container.
sounds so nice. I want to move into one.
Oh, box building. I went and toured some of the boxables and some of the container homes and they are really, really nice.
Yeah, some of them, and there's potentially someone looking at putting in on a commercial lot, rental units,
Yeah.
like in a hotel scenario. The old motel
Every
court.
time I think about that, I think of brick.
Well, they're not
I
in
think of it.
connexes, but they're container home sizes.
Tron Legacy, he had like
And if
four
you,
of them built.
when you
Actually,
look at them,
that was
you
nice.
go, oh, wow,
That's a
that
nice
doesn't-
container.
that doesn't, that doesn't look like a Connex box.
Yeah.
But
What if
they're,
we have requirements, if it's visible from the front, it has to look similar to the home, but if it's behind the home and no one's gonna see it from the road anyway,
well, and
then it can be a boxable.
that's what I would, yeah, I wouldn't say, yeah.
Neighbor's got to stare at it all.
Yeah.
day.
Well, screen it. Screen it.
Can't look like a box. It can't look like.
Well, but nothing stops them on a bigger property. Nothing stops them from having a Connex box right now, right?
Right, they can, that is an allowable accessory structure. You can put one out there. You can attach them and make two of
Well, we need to put that in the
them.
box. Let's worry about that one.
What about an old airplane? I've seen some of those.
Yeah. 737, just
No, the only airplane scenario.
old school bus.
How about a bunker? What about a bunker?
Yeah,
Bunker?
the only
It's only on the
airplane
ground up
scenario,
there.
All right, I
You
think,
can't see it.
Okay,
it's
guys.
getting close to 9
Yeah.
o'clock.
we went out the.
Bill, do you got what you need from us?
I believe so.
Okay,
I got
all right.
bit to chew
And
on
then
here.
some.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
All
right, guys.
Program today.
Let's get to our next item, which is to the adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Vote.
Billy, you seconded, right? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
All right, bye-bye.
I think that's the longest meeting we ever had. I think so.
No.